they might as well take my paycheck and just send it to all my bills. Like, what's the point in me even getting my paycheck? It's like,
no country worships hard work quite like America. People believe that as long as you have a job, live responsibly, and pay your bills on time, you will be okay. But in 2026, millions of people are proving the opposite. They are still working, the bills are still getting paid, but 1 month's paycheck only brings their bank account back to $0. This is not America collapsing overnight. This is what happens when working hard is no longer enough to maintain a normal life. So what happened? Are Americans really spending too much, or has life itself simply become too expensive? Today, let's listen to the people living through it. We are going to see where their money went, what they have had to give up, and why debt keeps piling up until even a working family is pushed to the edge of financial ruin. Watch until the end, because you and your family could become the next victims of this debt spiral. What happens before Americans can no longer afford their bills? I have to be honest with you, being unable to pay your bills does not begin the day you miss a payment. It starts much earlier when money is still coming into the account, the bills are still getting paid, but there is almost nothing left afterward.
I feel like my husband and I are doing everything right. We both have good jobs. I'm a nurse. I'm a registered nurse. I work full-time. He works full-time. We just got paid this past Friday, right? We paid the mortgage.
Wait a minute, this couple just got paid. The mortgage is paid, groceries are bought, there is gas in the car. That sounds pretty responsible, right? But then they look at their account and only have around $200 to $300 left for the days ahead. Try opening your banking app and looking at that number. It may have to cover a prescription, a school fee, a flat tire, or a day off work because your child gets sick. All it takes is two small things happening close together, and you're done. And I do not call that stability. When a budget only works as long as nobody gets sick, the car never breaks down, and every bill stays exactly the same, that family is not really living. They are holding their breath until the next paycheck. In the last video, we met people who work incredibly hard but still cannot afford rent, gas, and groceries. Some had to use credit cards as their last lifeline. Some worked more than 50 hours a week and still had to sleep in their cars. That is when the crisis had already become obvious. This time, I want to go back to what happens before that point. At first, you are still paying the bills and putting a little money into savings. Then the extra money disappears. After that, you start pulling money out of savings. Retirement contributions get reduced. A doctor's appointment gets pushed to next month. That strange noise coming from the car gets handled by turning up the radio. You know the car needs repairs. You know you should not put off the appointment. But there is not enough room in the account for both. Then the credit card steps in, and by the time other people notice the balance going up, the minimum payments piling up, or the first late bill, that family may have already lost most of its ability to protect itself months earlier.
$1 worth of credit card debt, and I take any extra money I get and apply it towards my credit card. So let's see what we're working with today. It's been a while, but I had some extra money in my Venmo account, so we're gonna take this amount and apply it towards my credit card. Starting balance on this card is $3,060. As a reminder, I wanna take this balance and put it on a zero interest credit card so that we have zero interest for like 18 months, I believe it is. However, there is a 3% fee in order to do that, so I need to get this card down to $2,900.
When people see a large amount of debt, the easy reaction is, what did she buy? I think the better question is this: before that number appeared, what was already missing from her account? Because debt like that does not necessarily require some out-of-control shopping spree. All it takes is for new expenses to keep coming in before the old balance has a chance to disappear. Life does not stop and wait for you to pay off your credit card. And ask yourself one very honest question. If a $500 bill showed up tomorrow morning, would you pay it with the money you have, pull it from savings, or put it on a credit card? That answer tells you where you are on this road. This is 2026. When a family has to use retirement money to cover current expenses, I no longer call that a difficult month. That is the future being drained just to keep today from falling apart. But why did that financial cushion disappear? Some people chose to live beyond their means. Others did not upgrade anything at all. The cost of the life they already had just kept going up. Those two situations are not the same, and we need to separate them. Living beyond your means, while the cost of living outpaces your income. Honestly, some people really did push themselves into debt by living above what their income could support. And here is one example.
What really sucks is realizing that the majority of these student loans is not from tuition. It's actually from living expenses and living way above my means.
Amaya admits that most of her student loans did not go toward tuition. They went toward living expenses and living beyond her means. I respect that honesty. She does not blame the debt on her school interest rates or the economy. A lot of people deliberately raise their standard of living before their income catches up. They rent a more expensive home, buy a car with a higher monthly payment, and tell themselves the pressure will force them to earn more. The problem is that the bills come due while the paycheck they are expecting may never show up. Living beyond your means rarely starts with one crazy shopping spree. It usually starts with a few smaller expenses, more rent, a higher car payment, a phone on an installment plan, or a trip put on a credit card. Each expense looks manageable on its own. But once you add them together, next month's paycheck is almost completely spoken for before it even arrives. Housing takes one part, the car takes another, loans take another, and the old credit card balance takes another. You have not earned the money yet, but it already has somewhere it needs to go. This is when debt starts controlling your job and your time. You're afraid to cut your hours when your health gets worse. You're afraid to take time off to care for your parents. You're afraid to leave a job that is wearing you down. The moment your income drops, every payment starts crashing into the next one. People say pressure will make you work harder. That may be true for a few months, but when every extra dollar you earn only goes toward keeping up with old obligations, you're no longer working to move forward. You're working to avoid late payments and pay off old debt. Take a look at your budget. If your income dropped by 20% next month, which payments could you still afford? If the raise you're waiting for never comes, could you maintain your current lifestyle? The answer will tell you what kind of money your life is really depending on. But I am not going to take Amaya's story and conclude that every family running out of money is overspending. Some people did not buy a new car, move into a different home, book a vacation, or add a single luxury. They are falling behind because their old expenses keep going up.
And she was like, she's just about to age out of the infant room and our price is going to go down. And then she said that after this new annual tuition increase, next year she'll be paying more for her toddler than she was paying for an infant. And this is something that a lot of people don't realize, especially when they sign up for daycare, because you get this tuition sheet and it shows you like the breakdown. And infants are most expensive, pre-K is the least expensive.
Paige's child is about to move out of the infant room. Normally, childcare gets cheaper as a child gets older. But after several tuition increases, she now has to pay more for an older child than she used to pay before. This family did not add any new services. The child simply got older, but the cost of childcare still went up, and this is not an expense you can cut like an entertainment subscription. If one parent stops working, the family loses income and insurance. If both parents keep working, childcare takes an even bigger share of their paychecks. Maybe your family does not pay for childcare, but you may be dealing with the same thing somewhere else. You stay in the same house, but the property taxes go up. You keep the same old car, but insurance and repair costs rise. You buy the same groceries, but the bill is still higher. If you were able to save $300 a month a few years ago, and now you cannot ask yourself clearly, did you buy too many extra things, or are you simply paying more for housing, transportation, insurance, food, and taking care of your family? These are two different paths. One group takes on new expenses that their current income cannot support. The other group does not change how they live, but the minimum cost of maintaining that life keeps rising. You cannot use one group to judge the other. I'm not using rising prices to erase personal responsibility. People who live beyond their means have to face the consequences, but I do not accept advice about cutting back when it is aimed at people who have already cut everything they can. So which essential expenses are taking away their income? Americans have cut almost everything, but the money still is not enough. You can cancel every entertainment service, stop eating out, keep your old phone for a few more years, and never book a vacation. But housing, car insurance, groceries, and medicine still come due right on time. This is where the advice to cut more starts to fall apart. Because once the unnecessary expenses are gone, what remains is no longer stuff you buy because you enjoy it. These are the bills you have to pay to keep a roof over your head, get to work, and keep your family functioning.
What? My car insurance from 4 years ago until now, with no tickets, no wrecks, no nothing on my driver's record, has gone from $130 to $240 per month!
Trevor did not get a ticket. He did not cause an accident. Nothing new showed up on his driving record, but his insurance still went from $130 to $240 a month. His electric bill used to be around $45, and now it is up to $125. What did he do to cause those increases? Almost nothing. And that is the frustrating part. You can drive the same car live in the same house and use electricity the same way you always have, but every month, those required expenses still take more money out of your account. Housing is the clearest example. Renters have to pay rent. Homeowners have a mortgage, property, taxes, insurance, utilities, management fees, and maintenance costs. Owning a home does not mean you have plenty of cash every month. A retired person may have almost paid off the mortgage and still be unable to handle another increase in taxes or insurance. And telling people to move somewhere cheaper does not solve the problem as quickly as some people think. Moving takes a security deposit, transportation costs, a suitable job, and most importantly, there actually has to be a cheaper place available to move to. After housing comes the car. In many parts of America, a car is not just something you choose to buy, it is how you get to work. On top of the monthly payment, there is insurance, gas, registration, tires, and repairs. Having your car in the shop for one day can also cost you a day's pay. You can sell the car to lower your expenses, but without reliable public transportation, how are you supposed to get to work?
$123. $123, that was with all my discounts for barely 2 nights of dinner. Barely 2 nights. I remember when I could spend about $120 and get groceries for a whole week, and that was breakfast, lunch, and dinner for all of us.
This man paid $123 for enough groceries to last barely 2 days. What shocked him was that the same amount used to buy breakfast, lunch, and dinner for his whole family for an entire week. He is not talking about expensive cuts of meat or organic food. Before this part, he explained that he was already buying the cheapest options and items that were on sale. So what is left to cut? A lot of families have already switched to cheaper brands, bought less meat, cut back on fresh food, waited for sales, and gone to several stores looking for the lowest prices. They bring home fewer bags, but the total on the receipt has not dropped by the same amount. Maybe you have stood at the register, looked at your shopping cart, then looked at the total and thought, I did not even buy that much. Healthcare is even harder to plan for. You know your monthly insurance premium, but you do not know when you will have to pay a deductible, a doctor's bill, medicine, dental care, or vision care. If you have to miss work for an appointment or to care for a family member, the cost is not just on the medical bill. It also shows up in the hours of work you lost. Then there is electricity, water heating, internet phone service, child care, and caring for aging parents. Not every automatic payment is a luxury service. Some of those expenses exist so you can keep working and taking care of your family. That is why earning more money does not always mean you are better off. If your paycheck goes up by $300, but housing, insurance, groceries, and family care go up by a total of $500, you're still earning more on paper. You just have less money left over. So do not only ask how much a family earns, ask how much money they still have control over after paying every expense they cannot avoid. And when that amount is already close to $0, cutting more no longer means giving up a few pleasures. It starts to mean touching their savings, retirement, health, and the assets they are trying to hold on to. That is the cost that comes next. Americans are cutting back on medicine and retirement savings to pay the bills. You may hear Sierra say this and laugh. She tries to tell it like a joke too. She spends everything she earns, has nothing in savings, and has maxed out her credit cards. But right after the laughter comes a more uncomfortable question. If her car does not start tomorrow morning, how is she going to pay for the repair?
Guys, I'm happy to share that I spent every single dollar I made this year. $0 in savings, credit cards maxed out. I'm nothing if not a perfectionist. So go me.
Her savings are gone. Her cards have no room left either. She can borrow from family, put off fixing the car, or pay another bill late. And that is what I want you to notice. Sierra does not have to lose her home or have her power shut off. Just one unexpected $600 expense would already force her to sacrifice something else. I used to think that as long as every bill due that month got paid, you had made it through. But the closer I look, the more I see that many people only manage to do that by neglecting the things nobody is demanding money for today. The bank reminds you about the loan. The insurance company reminds you about the premium. Your emergency fund stays quiet. So emergency savings usually get taken first. This month you are short $200 because the electric bill went up. Next month, groceries cost more than expected. You take money out and promise yourself you will put it back with the next paycheck. But that next paycheck still has to cover housing, the car, and insurance. Even the tax refund only fills the holes left by previous months. You may be thinking, then do not touch the emergency fund. I agree, but what money are you supposed to use to protect it? The rent money, car insurance, medicine, or groceries after you have already switched to cheaper options. When everything has to be paid, the money saved for an emergency that has not happened yet is usually the easiest money to take. Then people start looking at their 401k, not because they have forgotten about retirement, but because retirement is not sending them a bill on Monday. With just a few clicks, they lower their contribution and bring home more money in each paycheck. But they lose the money they stopped contributing, may lose the company match, and lose years of future growth. If you are 55, there's not much time left to make that money back. Some people withdraw it early. Others start collecting Social Security sooner than planned. They are not using that money for a luxury vacation. They are using it to pay for insurance, groceries, and housing. They are protecting the present by taking money away from their older selves. Then comes healthcare. A follow-up appointment does not just cost the price of the visit, it also costs money for medicine, gas, and half a day of lost wages. That same week, the electric bill and childcare payment are also due. Which one do you pay first? So the appointment gets pushed back, the test has to wait, and the medication gets stretched out longer. Homes and cars are also kept going through delays like these. Worn tires stay on the road. A warning light comes on, but the owner waits until the next paycheck. A leaking roof gets a temporary patch. It is not that people do not understand the risk, they just do not have $600 during the exact week when the problem can still be fixed for $600. Now look at your own budget. If the emergency fund is gone, retirement contributions have been cut, the doctor's appointment has already been delayed, and the car cannot wait any longer. The next source of money is not your paycheck. It is next month's credit. Credit cards are taking the place of paychecks. At this point, think about what happens when there is not enough money in the account, but the bills still have to be paid. The money does not appear out of nowhere. It comes from credit cards, buy, now pay later plans, personal loans, or a difficult phone call to a family member. Say your car needs an $800 repair during the exact week when you only have $200 left. You still have to get to work Monday morning, so the car repair goes on the credit card, the groceries get split into several payments, and the electric bill gets pushed back until the next payday. From the outside, everything still looks fine. The car is back. There is still food in the refrigerator. The power has not been shut off. But none of those choices increased your income. You simply moved today's expenses into a month that already has bills of its own. And before anyone says using a credit card is irresponsible, I want to separate two very different situations. When you spend within your means and pay the full balance at the end of the billing cycle, the card is simply a payment method. You are using your own money. It is just going through a different tool. But when there is not enough money in the account, you only make the minimum payment and you carry the balance into the next month. The card has taken on a different role. It is no longer helping you pay conveniently. It is lending you money to buy what your family needs before payday. This is where everything starts turning against your budget. The first month, you put an $800 car repair on the card. The next month, that balance is still there, but now you add $180 in groceries. The month after that, you have medicine to pay for and an electric bill that is higher than expected. You did not buy a new phone. You did not book a vacation. You did not walk out of a store with some expensive item. Even so, the balance keeps growing because the old charges are still there, new ones keep getting added, and interest starts taking even more money every month. And this is the part that frustrates me the most. You are still going to work, still making every payment on time, and your credit score may not have dropped at all. But to keep up that appearance, you are paying interest on groceries, medicine, and the car that gets you to work. People often say you just need to pay on time for whom the credit card company receives the minimum payment. The bill has not become past due, but next month's paycheck has already been partly taken by this month. With every cycle, you have less money left to live without borrowing again. By the time the first late payment happens, this may have already been going on for 6 months. The late payment is not when the struggle began. It is simply the moment when the person no longer has enough available credit savings or family members to cover the shortage with another source of money. This cycle is not limited to people with low incomes. A family with 2 working adults can still get trapped if childcare and insurance take almost an entire paycheck. A homeowner may own property and still not have $2,000 in cash to repair the roof. Retirees living on fixed incomes can get trapped too. Credit itself is not the problem. The problem begins when it replaces savings. To see the danger, look at the warning signs that appear before the first late payment. Warning signs and temporary measures. After all of this, do not just ask, can I pay all my bills this month? Ask 4 more questions. How much will be left after everything is paid? Is that amount growing or shrinking? Which expenses are you putting off? And how large would a bill have to be before you were forced to borrow? You can still pay everything on time while your account falls close to $0 by the end of the month. Your emergency fund is lower this month than it was last month. The money you took out has not been replaced. A bonus or tax refund came in and immediately went toward covering old expenses. 1 month like that does not tell the whole story, but if it continues for several months, you need to face the numbers. Your current income is no longer enough to cover required expenses while also leaving money for the next emergency. Check whether groceries, medicine, gas, or utilities are starting to show up on your credit cards. Are you still paying the full balance at the end of the billing cycle, or are you only making the minimum payment? Are you splitting basic necessities into several payments? Are bill due dates constantly being moved around to line up with payday? And look at the things you have not done. How long has that doctor's appointment been delayed? Is there a warning light in your car that you have been ignoring? Is there a problem with the roof heater or air conditioner that has not been fixed? When did you start cutting back on retirement contributions? If a bill under $1,000 would force you to borrow, or 1 week of reduced hours would be enough to make another payment late, that is something you need to pay attention to. One warning sign by itself does not necessarily mean you are in a crisis. The real concern is when several signs appear at the same time and do not go away after a few months. The first thing you can do is recalculate your true minimum cost of living. Do not just add up housing, groceries, and electricity. Include insurance, medicine, transportation care for children or parents, and expenses that only show up a few times a year. Car insurance paid every 6 months is still a monthly expense. Property taxes due at the end of the year still need to be accounted for from the beginning of the year. A set of tires you have not replaced yet does not mean your maintenance cost is $0. Next, write down the expenses you're putting off. This is where a lot of budgets look better than they really are. Skipping a doctor's appointment means one less bill this month, but the medical need is still there. Not fixing the car keeps a few $100s in your account, but the problem is still sitting under the hood. Stopping retirement contributions is not new savings either. Then track 6 months in a row. You only need 5 numbers. Take home income, required expenses, money left over, savings withdrawn, and new debt added. 1 month may be affected by an unusual bill. 6 months will show you whether your budget is recovering or getting weaker. Review your recurring expenses, automatic renewals, bank fees, phone plans, internet insurance, and credit card interest rates. Some can be negotiated, some can be moved to another provider, and some may be almost impossible to reduce. At the very least, you need to know what is taking money from your account every month. If you can already see that you are struggling, do not wait for the first late payment before looking for help. Check your workplace benefits, healthcare programs, energy assistance, local property tax relief, or nonprofit credit counseling. Eligibility rules vary by state and local area, so you need to check directly before relying on any program. I do not want to end by saying people just need to budget better. A spreadsheet cannot lower your rent, insurance, medical costs, or childcare expenses on its own, but it can help you understand where you stand before another bill makes the decision for you. What matters is not just being able to pay today's bills, it is whether you can still handle the next bill after they are paid. Maybe millions of Americans are struggling to believe what is happening. They are still working, still paying their bills, but their savings, health, and retirement keep getting drained just to keep life from sliding backward. And that is also why more and more people are starting to question the promise that hard work leads to stability. Everyone feels the pressure in a different way. Some people put off fixing the car, some delay a doctor's appointment or push retirement further back. Some even start thinking about leaving America. The problem may come from personal choices, debt, housing costs, insurance, healthcare, jobs, and a system that turns basic needs into obligations that never seem to end. So what do you think? Does America need a major change, or do Americans need to change the way they live? Share your thoughts. Thanks for watching and subscribe to the channel to keep following this journey.